What's going on, everybody? Justin here to do another edition of my Countdown series of videos. This is a top 5. There's nothing to do with the wrestling. This is top 5. My top 5. Some of my top 5 favorite horror movies. Some are going to be a series of movies together because I'm not going to list everyone because this is only a top 5. So here we go with my top 5 favorite horror movies, probably of all time. I have done last Halloween, before Halloween. Halloween is Monday, by the way, like 2-3 days away. So I'm pretty into Halloween. I mean, I love horror movies, love scary movies, love Halloween movies. Basically, I love horror movies. I have always loved them since probably 10 years old, or 12 years old. So, last year, on my YouTube, I did, it wasn't a list, but I gave some of, basically all of my favorite horror movies that I've seen and that I've enjoyed. I gave the list of those movies out. Maybe I'll go back and find it and I'll share it on my Twitter tonight. So maybe some of you can watch that and enjoy it. Maybe it's some horror movies you never heard of that I actually own on DVD. So here we go. First, before I start, the first horror movie I ever saw was probably Nightmare on Elm Street. It was either 1 or 2 or 3, one of those. So it was Nightmare on Elm Street, and I shouldn't have been even seeing it. I was like 5 years old. I was either 5 or 4 years old, and I was allowed, for some reason, I don't know why, but I was at my aunt's house, and my brother was 4 years older than me. He rented Nightmare on Elm Street, one of them, and then I sat there with him, and I watched the entire movie. That is not, that's not right for a 4 or 5-year-old to see Nightmare on Elm Street. That's not acceptable. That was, I don't know what my aunt was thinking. I think she left the room and she just ignored what the movie is about. I know it's rated R, but all I'm saying is a 4 or 5-year-old should not be allowed to watch Nightmare on Elm Street, in my opinion. But I saw it, and I was scared out of my mind when I saw it. I was scared as hell of Freddy Krueger because I was only 4 or 5 years old. I was freaked out by it. Probably scarred me for life. Not for life, but it scarred me as a kid. So then I didn't want to watch any horror movies basically until I was like 10 or 12 or 11. Then I started getting into them again. But I don't know. That is, if you have a kid, a 4 or 5-year-old, do not show them Nightmare on Elm Street. It will freak them the F out, in my opinion. So here we go. Probably seen that Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 4 or 5. That is probably what really got me into loving horror movies as an adult. So my number 5 is Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one, not the other ones. Some of the other ones were okay. I mean, the way Freddy killed people in the other ones, it was pretty innovative, but the other Nightmare on Elm Streets were not very good. Part 1, the original, was great. It was great. Wes Craven directed it. He did a great job. It was his concept. He came up with the story. It was great. So my number 5 is the first Nightmare on Elm Street. My number 4 is Friday the 13th, the series of movies. The Friday the 13th series. We all know Jason Voorhees. We all know who he is. I was always a bigger fan of Jason over Freddy. Always. I would say that Friday the 13th series, I would say part 1 to part 8 are pretty good. Of course, I have a couple favorites. Part 3 is pretty damn good. It's the first time Jason gets a hockey mask and puts it on. Part 2 is pretty good. Part 1's good. Part, I think 6 is pretty good. I believe it's called Jason Lives. That's a pretty good one. Jason Goes to Manhattan. That was pretty funny because he went to New York City. Jason 7. What was that called? Might have been called New Blood. That was pretty decent of a movie. The ones I did not enjoy were Friday the 13th Part 4. Didn't really enjoy it. You had Corey Feldman in that. And then Friday the 13th Part 5 was also not very good in my opinion. But the rest, anyways, my number 4 of my top 5 is the Friday the 13th series, Part 1 to Part 8. I'm not going to list Part 9, because Part 9, I believe, was Jason Goes to Hell. In that movie, that's what I thought of Jason Goes to Hell. It sucked. So, and Jason X, after Jason Goes to Hell, they waited a long time to make a Jason movie, or Friday the 13th. It wasn't even called Friday the 13th. It was called Jason X, and that's why I thought Jason X. It was not a good movie. It was awful. It was boring as hell, and it sucked. And then after that, I believe they made a Friday the 13th remake in 2009. Friday the 13th remake, in some parts were okay. There were hot chicks in it, so that's a plus. But the rest of the remake of Friday the 13th, it was not very good. I would just say it was okay. So that's my number 4. Friday the 13th series. My number 3. This movie really freaked me out for years. I didn't see this movie when I was a teenager. I never really wanted to see it because I was that freaked out about it. I heard a lot of stories about it, but I don't know why. I was freaked out to watch it. But I could have bought it, the movie, in the year 2000. My number 3 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I could have bought it on DVD in the year 2000, or maybe it's videotaped in the year 2000. There were still a lot of videotapes on sale. You know, I have a video store where I buy a lot of wrestling videos. So I think it was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre VHS videotape. They didn't sell DVDs yet until like 2001. So I had the chance in the year 2000 to buy this movie. I did not buy it because I was still freaked out to watch it. And yes, in the year 2000, I was 16 years old. When 2000 started, I was 16. I still don't want to watch it because I don't know, I was just freaked out about it. But I did see it and finally watch it, and now I own it on DVD. It's not that scary, but it is pretty disturbing and pretty freaky to watch and creepy. So my number 3 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original from 1974. Epic movie, how it was made, how it was shot. I believe it cost only $124,000 to make, or $170,000 to make. Anyways, it went on to make over $100 million. A lot of money. Of course, Toby Hooper was the director. The guy did great, genius horror director. And it was shot like the story and how they did the movie. It was made like it was real. what you were watching looked actually real. Didn't seem like it was a fake story. And yes, of course, there was no real Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That part is made up. There is no real Leatherface. That's made up. But still, how the movie is made and shot, it looked like a real story. And it freaked me out when I watched it. But I thought it was great. Great movie. Great horror movie. It's a classic. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a classic. If you haven't seen the original, see it, find it on DVD or watch it on TV. It's a classic. My number 2 is a remake, or I guess an original story on the remake of Halloween that Rob Zombie did. Rob Zombie remade Halloween, put his own story into it, came up with his own original story for Halloween. Anyways, let me get this screen off. Anyways, so Rob Zombie remade Halloween. I thought it was great. How he came up with his own story. I thought it was great. The story focused on Michael Myers basically as a kid, and then growing up as a teenager and an adult. But the Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I love that movie. I will never get tired of watching it. I thought it was great. Very well done. So my number 2 is Rob Zombie's Halloween Part 2. I believe it's from 2010 or 11. I love that movie. Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie. My number 1 of this top 5, my number 1 is the original Halloween from 1978. It's a classic. It has been copied many times by many movies after it. And why do I say it's been copied? Because of how the killer, Michael Myers, was portrayed in it. How the camera was shot. Like you were walking with the killer. Like you were looking through the eyes of Michael Myers. That's how the movie was presented. And of course, Jason, Friday the 13th, copied off the Michael Myers Halloween movie. And how Jason was presented. And how the camera was following the killer. Like you were looking through the killer's eyes when he was walking. That's what I mean. When he was moving, you were like seeing through the eyes of Jason or Michael Myers. Well, in my opinion, Friday the 13th copied that off Halloween. You can even say, actually, Freddy was an original idea. We didn't really see the camera through the eyes of the killer when Freddy showed up. So, my number 1 is Halloween from 1978. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. It was directed by, what's that guy's name? God damn it. The director's name, I can't. John Carpenter. Classic, great director, great horror director. The guy's done Halloween. The guy did They Live. He's done The Thing. He's done many other great horror movies and sci-fi movies. So, John Carpenter, great director. One of my favorite horror directors, Wes Craven, one of my favorites, and Tobe Hooper, also one of my favorite horror directors. So my number 1 is Halloween, the original Halloween. They're going to play it on AMC. If you have cable, if you have AMC, they're going to play the original Halloween, I believe, tomorrow night, on Saturday night, on the 29th. I think today's the 28th, I believe. Let's see the date here, 28th. So Halloween, the original Halloween, is going to be shown on AMC on October 30th, 2016, I believe, at night at 7 or 8 o'clock. So that's my list. That's my top 5 favorite horror movies. If you have a list of your favorite horror movies, comment under this video. Tell me your top 5 favorite horror movies under this video. Comment and tell me your favorites, or tell me your top 5 favorite horror movies on Twitter. Tweet me at WWENXT and tell me your top 5 favorite horror movies, or comment under this video and tell me your list. Subscribe to my YouTube, share my videos, like my videos. Hope you enjoyed this top 5 of my favorite horror movies. Have a happy Halloween and have a great weekend, everybody. Bye for now.